Welcome to the deep dive. You send us what you're trying to understand, and we dig into it, pull out the crucial insights for you.
That's the idea.
So today we're jumping into this really compelling narrative a listener shared. It's a story, starts out super normal almost every day, but it escalates pretty quickly into something, well, terrifying. A stalking situation.
Yeah, and the source is actually a fictional piece, but it does a really sharp job of exploring how that happens.
Right. So our mission here, our deep dive, is to unpack this story. We want to look at those little shifts in behavior, the subtle things.
And really get a handle on that feeling, that creeping sense of danger, how it builds.
Exactly. How things can seem fine on the surface, but underneath, something darker is going on.
Precisely. How those seemingly normal interactions can, mask a really disturbing intent.
Okay, so let's get into it. We start with Sarah. It's Friday night. She's had a tough week, law firm demands.
Yeah.
And she just wants to unwind. So she heads to this place, the Bentwood in Elmhurst. Seems like a typical suburban spot.
And that setting is important, right? That feeling of wanting a safe place, your local bar, where you can just relax.
Yeah, refuge. But that's where the unease starts creeping in.
Even in those comfortable spots, it shows you.
So there's this guy, Tom, sitting a few stools down. She kind of recognizes him vaguely, from the neighborhood.
It's just a face you've seen around.
Yeah.
Fleetingly.
Exactly. But then he looks at her, and it's not just a glance, it's like intense. The story calls it this look of deep recognition. Which is weird, unsettling, because she doesn't really know him like that.
And that recognition he shows, you have to wonder, from his side, what that means. It suggests maybe he's already been watching her, fixating, even before this.
Like she's already a target in his mind.
Potentially, yeah. His look isn't just seeing her, it's like he's confirming something he already decided.
Okay, so he comes over, seems polite enough, asks about her week, voice is even, normal.
Right.
But the stare continues. That intense look doesn't really match the casual chat. It's a little off.
That's a classic sign, isn't it? The polite words, but the intense gaze. It suggests something's not quite aligned internally.
Like a mask.
Creates that subtle wrongness, even if you can't put your finger on why.
Then they talk again. He properly introduces himself, Tom, and he mentions he lives just like 2 doors down from her.
Right nearby.
And Sarah gets this immediate, gut feeling. Discomfort, that proximity. 2 doors down. It just sets off an alarm bell for her, even if it sounds harmless.
And that gut feeling, that instinct, it's often picking up on things we don't consciously register yet.
Yeah.
The kind of intuitive warning system.
Yeah, and later we find out why that instinct was so right.
Because we get his perspective.
Yeah. This is where it gets really chilling. We learn he didn't just happen to move into the neighborhood 3 months before.
No.
He came there specifically with the sole, silent intention of observing her. That was his purpose.
Wow.
Her life, basically what he could see from his house, became his whole focus, his new landscape. It wasn't chance at all. It was planned.
That premeditation is just, it's central to stalking, isn't it? It's not just attraction, it's a deliberate act, focusing your life on someone else, secretly.
Yeah, and calling her life his landscape.
Yeah.
It shows zero boundaries. Total entitlement.
Exactly. And it wasn't just casual observation either.
No, he was meticulous. Noticed her kitchen light schedule when she paused at the door. All these tiny details. The narrative calls him the unseen observer, a shadow woven into the fabric of her ordinary existence. He even followed her to the bar that night. He tracked her.
That level of detail, it's about information gathering, learning patterns. It's about control, really.
He's the stalker's sense of power, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. A sense of power, maybe even a warped sense of intimacy, being this unseen watcher. But it's totally one-sided.
So they start dating, and those early dates, we find out later they were just an act, a carefully orchestrated performance of normalcy.
The charm offensive.
Totally. Charming, super attentive, mirroring her interests, seeming to know what she wanted, basically being the perfect guy.
That's often called grooming, right? Building trust by presenting this, ideal version of yourself, mirroring the victim. It's manipulation to lower their guard.
And you can see why Sarah might fall for it initially. She's stressed from work, maybe tired of superficial dating.
Right.
Here's this guy who seems so easy, so comforting, like a balm, the story says.
That vulnerability, being stressed or maybe a bit lonely, can make someone more open to that kind of attention. It seems like a relief.
But then the shift, that warmth, starts to feel less like comfort, more like heat, like pressure.
The cracks appear.
Yeah. She casually mentions a male colleague just talking about work, and Tom's reaction is, Unsettling. His eyes tighten, there's this forced smile.
Oof. That tiny reaction speaks volumes. It shows the jealousy, the possessiveness he's been hiding.
Even over something totally innocent.
Exactly. It signals he can't handle her having any life or connections outside of him. That's a huge red flag.
And then the behavior ramps up. Texts not answered right away lead to these incessant calls.
The checking in becomes controlling.
Totally. The tone flips from, like, playful worry to basically interrogation. Everything okay? Who are you with? Why aren't you answering me?
That speed, how quickly it goes from attentive to demanding constant contact and information, it's really alarming. It's about control.
Then Sarah starts getting these feelings, feeling watched when she's just gardening in her own yard.
Yeah.
Or this weird certainty that someone's been inside her house, even with no proof. The story calls them small things, easily dismissed as nerves.
But they add up. And those feelings, even without hard evidence, they're incredibly damaging. They create constant anxiety, make you doubt yourself.
Right, you start questioning your own sanity. Is it just nerves? Or is something really wrong?
And that accumulation, all those small things, just builds this terrible sense of dread.
So the fifth date, they go into the city, a jazz club. This is described as the moment the real horror starts.
The turning point.
Sarah tells a funny story about Court, something from work, and laughs genuinely. And Tom's reaction is just shocking. A mask of icy fury.
Whoa! Go for a laugh.
Yeah. It's like her genuine happiness, something he didn't cause, is offensive to him.
It reveals that need for control. Her emotions are supposed to be about him. Her laughing freely is somehow a betrayal in his mind.
And then he actually says it, this really venomous question. You think that's funny. You find that amusing, like completely out of nowhere.
The joke itself is irrelevant. It's all about her attention not being 100% on him. Pure possessiveness.
Then the accusations start flying. Work, or is it about him, the one you were texting? Pure jealousy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he grabs her wrist, physically grabs it, hard.
Okay, that's a major line crossed. From psychological stuff to physical intimidation. That's scary.
Yeah, and he's ranting, playing games, leading me on, laughing with them when you should be focused on me. It's like this delusion that she owes him her entire focus.
His jealousy just explodes. It becomes this monstrous entity, as the narrative puts it.
The charming guy is gone. Poof.
Yeah.
Replaced by this. Stranger, face all twisted with possessiveness. Sarah, understandably, just bolts. Flees the club.
Good for her. Recognizing the danger and getting out. That mask he wore just completely dropped.
But the terror doesn't end there. The next morning, something is delivered to her doorstep.
Oh, no.
A single red rose. Which sounds nice, right? Except nestled inside the petals is a razor blade.
Jeez. That's horrifying. The contrast, beauty and violence.
Exactly. It's a message, ownership, threat, all wrapped up in one disturbing package.
Taking something meant to be loving and twisting it into a weapon, it really shows the distorted way he thinks.
So Sarah tries to pull back, texts him, I think we need some space, Tom. Makes sense.
Trying to set a boundary.
His reply comes back immediately, and it's chilling. Space won't help, Sarah. Not when I can see you anytime I want. Right here.
Wow. Just right here?
Yeah.
Using their proximity, the fact he lives 2 doors down, as a threat.
Yeah, it weaponizes the neighborhood. Her home isn't safe. Nowhere feels safe if he's right here. It traps her mentally.
He becomes, like the story says, the architect of her fear. An unseen presence, always potentially there.
And her life descends into this constant anxiety. Every passing car, every shadow. Is it him? Normal house sounds become frightening.
That hypervigilance is exhausting and terrifying. It's psychological torture.
And she does catch glimpses of him sometimes, watching her, just confirming her fears.
Reinforcing his presence, his control.
Then another discovery. Her mailbox is slightly ajar. Inside, another gift.
What is it this time?
A dead bird. Perfectly preserved, but its neck is twisted.
Ugh, that's vile. It's not subtle anymore.
No, it's a direct threat, a warning, like a trophy he's leaving for her, designed purely to terrorize.
A clear escalation into tangible intimidation, showing what he's capable of.
So she calls the police again, voice cracking, terrified. But, the legal side of stalking, it often feels like it's not enough, like a floozy shield.
That's a really common and frustrating experience for victims, unfortunately. Getting the system to act before something worse happens can be incredibly difficult.
They offer more patrols, advice about restraining orders, but Sarah just knows deep down that a piece of paper won't stop Tom.
Her intuition is probably right. Someone this fixated, this delusional, they often don't respect legal boundaries.
So she's trapped, sleepless, constantly terrified in her own home. She starts keeping a kitchen knife nearby.
The loss of safety in your own home.
Mm-hmm.
It's devastating. It affects everything.
And then comes the night it all shatters, just a regular Tuesday evening.
Okay.
Suddenly, there's this sharp rap on her back door. Not a polite knock, a demand, like he owns the place.
That shift in the knock itself is significant. No more pretense, just entitlement.
Then silence, which is almost worse.
Yeah.
Followed by the soft scraping sound of a key turning in her lock.
He has a key. How did he get a key?
The story doesn't say, which makes it almost scarier. But the realization hits her like ice water. He wasn't just watching tonight, he was coming inside.
The ultimate violation. Crossing the threshold.
She's paralyzed with terror. The back door creaks open, and then she hears his voice. Low. Almost intimate, which is terrifying in itself. Sarah, I know you're there.
It's not a question, is it? It's a statement. He knows. He's in control.
And the intimacy in the tone? That distorted belief that they have some kind of connection. Despite her terror, it's so disturbing. She hears his footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Moving through her kitchen. He's in her house. Her sanctuary. Violated.
That invasion of the home. It's profoundly traumatic.
Yeah.
Shattering that fundamental sense of security.
Then he appears in the archway to the living room. Just a shape in the dim light. No smile. His eyes are described as gleaming with chilling possessiveness.
Just pure obsession.
And then he speaks. But it's not angry exactly. It's almost lamenting. Like she's the one being difficult. Why are you making this so difficult? We belong together, Sarah. You just refuse to accept it.
Wow. Blaming her. Twisting reality completely. That's classic manipulation.
Yeah.
Rationalizing his terrifying behavior.
That delusion of belonging together is so central to his thinking.
Absolutely.
He starts to reach for her, this possessive reach. And in that instant, Sarah sees it all clearly. The charming guy was never real. It was always a mask for this creature driven by a terrifying delusion.
The mask is completely gone. She's face to face with the real danger.
And all she can do is scream. A raw, primal scream. Just pure terror echoing out, hoping anyone hears.
A desperate plea for help. A reaction to that immediate, overwhelming threat.
And the story ends right there almost, with the line. The true crime story had found its terrifying climax, and Sarah was trapped in its pages, the ending yet to be written. Leaves you hanging, feeling that fear.
Yeah, it really hammers home how insidious stalking is. How something seemingly small can escalate into absolute terror.
Which brings us back to why we did this deep dive, right? To really understand those subtle signs, those shifts, and that feeling of danger creeping closer.
Hopefully, by looking closely at this story, even though it's fiction, we can all become a bit more aware. Maybe recognize some of those warning signs earlier in our lives or for people we know.
Yeah, because early recognition could make a huge difference.
It really could.
So maybe a final thought for you listening to mull over. Forget the big dramatic moments for a second. What are those really, really subtle early signs? Those gut feelings, the tiny inconsistencies we might brush off, the things that could signal someone's behavior might be escalating dangerously. And how do we get better at trusting those instincts and responding, even when our rational mind says, oh, it's probably nothing?
That's a really important question. How do we listen to that unease before it's too late? Definitely something to think about.